If somebody had told me that this would be my experience in the UK, honestly, I don't think I would have believed the person, because I didn't see this coming at all. Like, I didn't for once ever imagine that this kind of thing would happen to me. Guys, I'll give you the details and tell you the full story in this video, so feel free to grab your own cup of tea just as I have mine. Now, let me take you guys to the very beginning. I wrote my first theory test in August 2021. Okay, I even made a YouTube video about it after I passed in my first attempt. So I looked forward to doing the practical. I remember somebody even left a comment in that video that time saying, oh, don't be too excited until you pass your practical. I didn't even understand it then until now. Okay, that comment actually started making sense now that I went through everything that I went through this period. So I started, trying to learn how to drive. I got a driving instructor. Even though I had scanty lessons, I wasn't really serious. Okay, I think I started in November of 2021 with the instructor. The next year I got a bit serious, but I think we just kept dragging our feet. I don't know, for whatsoever reason, we were just not working. I was with that particular instructor for about 7 to 8 months. It was even my husband that said, what are you guys doing? You've been spending so much money doing this, and you're still not booking your practical tests. What are you guys doing? I remember telling the lady that, see, I think it's time for us to book a test, and she said I wasn't prepared, that she wasn't going to take me to the test because she felt I wasn't prepared, right? And that was how somehow we just stopped. I started looking for another instructor, and I got another instructor in August of that 2022 or thereabout, and we started in September or October. I can't really remember very well. I remember that in December, he asked me to book my test. He said that I was ready for a test. I should go ahead and book my practical test. So I got a date for January. I booked the test and got a date for January. 6th of January, that was when I did my first practical test. I was so prepared. I was ready to take pictures after the test. Like, I was ready to make a video or just say that, oh, I passed my UK driving test in my first attempt. But guys, that was not my case, and that was not even close to my case. Okay, so during the test, I had a dangerous fall. I think it was on a 40 road, and I just didn't calculate well. I tried to go when a car was coming, but yeah, the examiner had to match the brake, and that was how I failed the test. I took it in good faith. I came back home and I booked the next test immediately. I got a date in February. On that fateful day, I went for the test and I failed. Before I continue, I would love to introduce you all to the sponsors of today's video, LemFi. LemFi is a reliable app that you can use to send money to Africa. LemFi allows residents of the UK and Canada to send money to Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Benin, Tanzania, Uganda, and Rwanda at 0 fees. Yes, there are no hidden charges, and the recipient receives the money immediately you send it. So LemFi can always be trusted for both your personal and business financial transactions, and they have the best rates that you can get in the market, so you will get your complete value for money. I've been using LemFi for a while now, and I can tell you that it's fast, it's easy to use, it's absolutely free, and it's secured. So to get started, you can download the app with my referral link in the description box to get 10% cash back on your first transactions above £100, capped at £50. Alternatively, you can download the LemFi app directly from the Apple App Store or Google Play Store and enter my code Tochi to benefit from this offer. So please hurry now and download the LemFi app and begin to send money to Africa for free, and don't forget to use my code Tochi. Now back to the video. On that fateful day, I went for the tests and I failed. Mind you, I was heavily pregnant at this time, okay, and it just didn't work for me because I heard that it used to favor pregnant women. If you're pregnant and you go for your test, they might be lenient with you and all of that, but that didn't work for me at all, right? I failed again. I came back and booked the third test, heavily pregnant, and I got a date in March. But unfortunately for me, I missed that test because I forgot my driver's license at home, my provisional driver's license at home. And you know that you cannot take the test without it. By the time I remembered and came back home to pick it, it was already late, and that was how I missed that test. The money I paid, gone. So I just didn't continue anymore because I was almost due to have my baby anyway. So I just had to pause it until after having my baby. By the time I came back and I was ready to continue trying, I booked another test, but somehow I didn't get a date in my town, so we had to book for Liverpool. Someone advised that we book in any town that we find, any city that we find, and then use the cancellation app to bring it closer, right, to our test center. So we booked for Liverpool at the time, and mind you, my theory was going to expire in August of that year. So I tried to really get a date before my theory expired, but it wasn't working. And by the time the one I booked for Liverpool came, obviously I couldn't travel to Liverpool to do the test. That was how I missed that one. That money gone. I lost that money as well. How many tests now? You guys counting? Okay. So I went for my theory test after it had expired, and guess what? I failed. Yes, I failed that theory test. Can you imagine? At this point, it felt like my village people were after me, okay? But I didn't give up. I still came back. I think I failed the hazard perception part, but I was really shocked because I prepared for this test. But when I saw the result, because you're going to see the results immediately after your test, when I saw the results, I wasn't happy, but I accepted it because there was nothing I could do. So I came back home and booked another theory test, prepared for it, and this time around I passed it, right? So after that, I got another date for my practical test in September. I went for that test. It was just 2 days to my birthday or something like that, so a day to my birthday. I went for the test, and guess what? I failed. You guys, this time it was very, very annoying because it felt like this particular examiner was after me, because at this point I was always having the same examiner, okay? And somehow as a human being, I was like, why would it always be you? It felt like she was just hell-bent on failing me. I don't know why. Today is traffic light, tomorrow is you didn't check your mirror, next tomorrow is, you know, when you were turning right, you didn't do that. It was just for minor things that I knew that some other people would have ignored, right? But yeah, there was nothing I could do. I just had to take it in good faith. It wasn't funny at that time, but one thing I know is that giving up was not even an option, because I knew that I really needed to get this license. I needed it for my children. See, it's hard getting around here. Taxis are very expensive. The transportation system is not that good, you know, going for school run and all of that. I just needed it. I felt like I was handicapped. I couldn't really do so much if my husband was not around. You know, there were things I just needed to do that I couldn't do because I didn't have a license. So I was just angry. I was frustrated. I remember that there was a time I came back from the test and I was pregnant and I failed one of those tests. My mom was around then. I just kept crying and she said, see, you're pregnant. Don't cry for your baby. Be strong. It's just a license. Nobody died, you know, something like that. But I felt like nobody just understood me at that point. I just kept crying and crying. I'm like, what is all of this? Like, what have I done? Why is my case different? I'm a safe driver. I take these people around and come back, bring them back safely, and they still fail me. What am I not doing right? But anyways, every time I come back, I book another test. I found another date in December or so for the next test. I booked it. I went again and I failed. It was the same woman, right? So when I came back from that test, I was like, what's going on? But I didn't want to give up. I knew that I wasn't even going to give up because that wasn't an option. So I booked another test this year in January or so. That was when I got a date. And I failed again. That was when somebody advised that we should try another center, like a nearby center that had a better pass rate than, you know, our town. And because it was a 30 minutes drive, we had to go there, I think twice. We drove around, we used Google to check the test routes. Initially, I was indifferent, you know, I just didn't want to go because I felt like I didn't know these routes. I wasn't familiar with the roads and all of that. But my husband said, say the roads that you think you're familiar with, you've been failing, why not try somewhere else? What's the worst that could happen, right? So we decided to give it another shot. So we went there, went around, drove around the city, you know, went to some of the test routes that we could find on Google and everything. And we came back, even on the test day, we still went 1 hour before the time and just drove around and came back and I still failed. Okay, at this point I was like, okay, are you sure driving is for me? Why is all of this happening to me? You know, it was just really painful. Guys, the pain, the torture, the pain, the torture, guys, it was very, very painful. The anxiety, the fear. At this point, I became really afraid. Anytime I'm going for the test, I'll be shivering. Like, I usually feel sick before and after the test, because like, what is this? What is going on? Even my instructor was like, what's going on? What's happening? You're a safe driver, you're a good driver. Why do you keep failing this test? And it was the same woman. You can imagine that I did this test for this whole time, and this woman was always the one, you know, being my examiner, right? And there were other people there. Anyway, that didn't favor me. That favored some people. Going to a nearby town to write the exam favored some people, but it didn't favor me. And at this point, maybe I should have given up, but hell no, that was not even an option at all. It just cost me money. And then the feeling, that feeling, because this is the first time in my life that I'm feeling at something consistently, so it just wasn't a good experience for me. You guys, I'm glad that I can tell this story now, but then it wasn't funny. It wasn't at all. I just kept telling myself, if I fail and come back, I will just book another test. It will cost me money, but I have to do it, right? So after I came back from that test, and this was after this particular woman has failed me 5 times. So I had done 8 tests in this particular center, and 5 whole times this same woman failed me, and her colleagues, I think I had just 2 of her colleagues at 2 different times. Okay, now there was even something that happened that made me just feel like I think this woman was after me, like maybe she doesn't like me, or there's just something about me that this woman was just hell-bent on making me feel. There was a time, one of the tests, that I failed at a traffic light, okay, and when I was now doing the same test with the colleague, we passed that road, and I did the opposite of what the woman failed me for, and the colleague was like, you have to go, that light is not for you, you have to go. I told him, your colleague failed me for this same thing, and that was why I had to stop. And he said, okay, whatever. I had to say it because I felt like this man was about to fail me again for this same thing that this woman did. But anyway, we continued, but somehow I failed somewhere else, or the man failed me somewhere else. It was at a roundabout or something. And by the time we came back, he said that he gave me a minor for that one because I already told him that my colleague failed me for that one, right? Anyways, back to this 8 tests that I had done in another city. I just told myself that I wasn't going to go to anywhere again. I'm going to continue doing this testing crew no matter what happens. I know that someday I'm going to get my license. It's just going to cost me money and time. Okay, that was what I kept telling myself. And then thankfully I had like a great support system. My family, my friends, everybody was just encouraging me and telling me, oh, this doesn't define you. You have succeeded in other things, okay? This doesn't define you. Just keep doing it. You're going to get it someday. You know, at this point, I just kept counting my blessings, and that kept me going because I was unhappy. It kept me unhappy for the most part, right? But God just helped me somehow, and I kept going with the support of my family and friends. Everybody around me just kept encouraging me, supporting me. In fact, I have a friend from church. Anytime we're going out, she will say, don't worry, I'm coming to pick you, I'll drop you at home, just so that you don't feel bad, because guys, booking taxis are expensive and all of that. So I just really needed my license because I need it for my kids, guys. School run, I have to do school run, I have to be able to go around, do what I want to do, or I have to do that I couldn't do. So anytime things like this just come up, I would just feel so bad. I would cry and say, God, why is all this happening to me? You know, they say you require some atom of luck, favor. Why am I not getting it? Right? Sometimes I will see somebody, maybe I even introduce the person to an instructor or somebody who just started learning how to drive. The person will just go for the test and pass at once and come back and say, oh, I passed. And I'll be happy for the person, but I'm like, God, why is my case different? But anyways, I booked the 9th test. I went for that test. In fact, that was like the hardest test I had ever done, because the man took me, I did a 30 road, 40, 50, 60, even 70. The man took me to the motorway. I did all of that. And I came back and he told me the same story. Unfortunately, you have failed. And the annoying thing with some of these people is that They will take you round the test. You will go around the test center, finish your test for 40 to 45 minutes, and then come back only for the person to tell you that it was something you did at the beginning that failed you. Now, why didn't you just bring me back from that point? Why didn't you just bring me back at that point? Why take me round and make me give my whole best and, put in the effort to do all the maneuvers, everything, only for you to come back and tell me that I failed at the beginning of the test? Guys, it was really frustrating. It was really, really annoying. But anyways, I came back after the 9 tests and I'm like, okay, I have to re-strategize. What is going on? What is happening to me? Why am I always failing this test? And I'm a safe driver. I take these people around, I bring them back in one piece. Okay, I've never had any dangerous faults aside the first test that I did. So why? There was even one I did, the guy just gave me so many minors. I had almost 13 minors. Like brake, steering, this one. I'm like, these people are after me. Anyways, I came back and I had to re-strategize. I got another instructor. My friend had to introduce me to her instructor, and that was how I started another lesson. And guys, at this point, I had spent so much money. I spent close to £2,000 just trying to get my driver's license in the UK, if not more. You can imagine that. On test alone, each test is £62. So at this point, I had booked it for 10 times, in fact 12 times, because I missed 2. So I had booked this test for 12 times. For the practical, I booked 12 times. For the theory, I booked 3 times. So imagine how much I spent on just the test alone. I'm not even talking about the instructors. I had used 3 instructors now. The first one, the second one, and now the third one. And I paid for each lesson. Before, when I started, it was £70 for 2 hours, but now it's £80 for 2 hours. So for every 2 hours lesson I have, I pay £80. So you can imagine how much I spent. Anyway, as God would have it, I got this instructor and she was really nice, a very good instructor. My friend introduced her to me, had to just tell her about me and begged her, and she accepted to do it, even though she wasn't meant to, because she was almost due to give birth. But somehow she agreed to help me and asked me to give her some of my test results, because my friend already told her that I had failed so many times. So by the time we went for our lessons, she looked at it and looked at some of the things that she felt would have been the problem, because she asked me, do you remember the points where you failed and all of that? And I told her. So she told me the things that she felt went wrong, and she took me to some of those routes as well. We went through it and told me what I could have done differently to have passed and everything. And then we did all the maneuvers again, reverse, forward bay parking, park on the right, and all the maneuvers you could think of. We went through all of them. I did 2 lessons with her the first day. We did another one. I think I did about three lessons, about 6 hours with her, and she told me to try to move my test date forward, okay, with the cancellation app. There's this cancellation app I was using. It's called Driving Test Now. Once you book your test, it helps to give you a closer date. Okay, that was what I used to book all the tests and get closer dates. So she asked me to look for dates in, I think, April and May, or maybe June, because she was almost due at that time. And somehow the app just didn't book me. It was not even funny. I'm like, but this is the app I've been using. There was even one I did. I used the app. I booked the test today. I put in my date on the app, and the app booked me for the next week. So it didn't even waste time. So I was used to always getting test dates anytime I wanted, or most of the times that I chose. But this time around, somehow it just didn't book me. And at this point, the woman had given birth and she was already on maternity leave. I said, I can't go on my own, no. I need this woman to go with me, because I've tried this thing on my own. I don't want to do it again. Right? So she told me, don't worry, I'm going to take you for your test, okay? And that was good, because now she's supposed to be on maternity leave, not working, but she agreed to take me for the test. So I had to wait for my original date, because the app somehow just didn't book me for a closer date. So we had some lessons before the day. She even couldn't come. She had to send her colleague to just take me around some of the test centers and just do like rehearsals and everything. So I went, we did it. Then on the day of the test, she came 1 hour, about 30 minutes before the test. And guys, something really interesting happened on this day that I was having my test. I woke up, I was so scared. I was shivering. I was afraid. afraid, fear. It was like I had fever. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't eat. I was so scared. Like my hands were shaking. My husband held my hands and said, don't worry, you will pass. Don't worry, just calm down. I was so scared. I was afraid. I'm like, God, am I going to fail this test again? My poor heart handled another failure. Even when I was going through show me, tell me questions, my heart was just beating. I was really, really scared. Anyway, she came and picked me and she noticed that I was really afraid. So instead of her driving me to the test center, she asked me to drive, because I'm sure she'll be like, if I leave you like this to go and drive for your exam, I don't know what will be the outcome. So I drove, on our way. We did some maneuvers as well. She just tried to talk to me. She said, calm down, you're going to be fine. Just breathe in, take a deep breath, breathe out. You're going to be fine. Just do everything that you have learned. You're a good driver. She just tried to encourage me and calm me down. And I did some of the maneuvers and everything that morning, just a little. We didn't do so much, and then we went for the test. So thankfully, because this is one thing that I'm actually grateful for, thinking about it now, our instructor asked me on our way going that, she said, I'm sure that by now you're familiar with the examiners, but who is the examiner you would see now that might scare you a little bit? And I mentioned the name of the lady. And she said, how many times have she failed you? I told her 5 times. She has failed me 5 times. And she said, don't worry, even if she's the one that you see this time around, just ignore her and drive. Focus on driving and passing your test. Don't worry about who the examiner is, and don't worry, you're going to pass. Okay, so when we got to the test center, I barely even sat down. They all came out. The first man came out, called the person he was going with. The second person called, and I just knew that I was stuck with this same lady. So this was the 6th time that this woman was taking me for the test. So out of 9 tests that I had done in my test center, she did 6. So you can imagine why I felt that she was somehow on my matter. But anyways, I just dismissed it. I said, I'm not going to fail again. I just said, God, take the wheel. I won't fail this test again. This woman will not fail me, right? I just said that silent prayer. Even when I got into the car, by the time we went out, she told me to sign, confirm my address and everything, the routine. I did all of that. We came out. She told me to read a plate number of a car. I did. We went in. And she asked me the first, tell me question. I did that. I answered it correctly. And then we got into the car. Okay. I was afraid. At this point, I was shaking, but I just told God, I just made a simple prayer. I said, Jesus, please take the wheel. Help me to pass this test this time around. And we went for the test, okay? On our way going, she tried to ask me a few questions. What do you do? She tried to have a conversation, but I didn't want to have so much conversation so that I don't get distracted. I was focused. This time around, I drove by the books. Right, I was driving, but fear would have failed me because I was scared. I was scared, guys. Towards the end of the test, my hands started shaking, but I just said, God, help me. And by the time we got back to the test center, she said, okay, as usual, we've come to the end of your test. Turn off your engine. Thank you. Would you want your instructor to hear the result of your test? In my head, I'm like, why would you even want to call my instructor? I thought I had failed because, of course, why would you want my instructor to hear the result if not to tell her that, I failed somewhere so that when we go for her to correct it, she can go and correct the mistakes for me. I thought I had failed. In fact, when we were coming back, she asked me, for how long has this lady been your instructor? I told her for a few months now. And she said, okay. So when we got to the test center, the instructor was now there at that point. She said, I'm pleased to announce to you, you passed. Oh my God. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to scream. I didn't know. I was like, thank you, Jesus. I said thank you to her. She said, don't thank me. Thank your instructor. She did a good job. I'm like, okay. And then my instructor now said, I'm sure when you saw her this morning, you were scared. I said, yes, I was, because she had failed me 5 times. And guess what the lady said? I didn't fail you. You failed. I'm like, anyways, it's not your fault, right? But yeah, I was so excited and I was grateful to this my instructor because guys, you won't understand. It was not I was not in a good place at the time all of these things were happening to me, because it was just bad. It's not a situation you should be in. It's not a situation anybody should be in. People go for tests and writes and do theirs once, twice, 3 times, at most 5 times. And here I was going for the 10th time. So you can imagine my joy. I just came up after she left. She gave me my past certificates and she had finished. I just went and gave my instructor a very big hug and I said thank you. I had to even buy a gift for her baby after I had paid her for the section we had. I had to buy a gift for her baby just to appreciate her. And I said thank you. God just used you. It just felt like everything worked for my good, just for me to pass this test for the 10th time. So guys, if you're thinking of giving up, if you found yourself in a situation where you have failed consistently at something, or things are just not working out the way you planned, or you found yourself being very low at any point in your life, just look at me as a testimony and say, if Tochi didn't give up, I would not give up, right? If I can do it, guys, you too can do it. If I can make it, you can make it, because what happened to me was good enough for anybody to just say driving is not for me, I'm giving up, I'm not doing it. But funny enough, giving up was not an option. It wasn't. It was just that feeling, and the whole money I was spending and all, and just what it does to me, what going for that test always and having to fail always, what it does to me. It was not a good place at all. I was not in a good place. So this also goes a long way to tell you that you should be kind to people, because you don't know what people are going through. Honestly, a lot of people are going through a lot, but maybe makeup and clothes and everything just covers it up, and you don't know until they tell you. Okay, so yeah, guys, cheers. I actually passed my driving test at the 10th attempt. Okay, yes, and that's after I had booked 12 times. I missed 2. I attempted 10 and I passed on the 10th attempt. So yeah, that is my story. I'm just more excited that I don't have to worry about going for that test again, because guys, that thing was traumatizing. People will not understand. It took a lot from me. But I'm glad that finally it is over. It is finally over, and I can just be happy again, because guys, that thing really kept me unhappy. It made me sad for a long time. It made me sad, right? So now you guys, please suggest the kind of car that I would buy, because I deserve it. I'm looking at a hybrid car. I don't know much about cars, but you guys can suggest for me a very good and affordable car. Okay, so please, next time you feel like giving up, just look at me and say, since Tochi did not give up, I will not. Feel free to even send me a DM. I can encourage you. And the good thing about all of this is that I am now a better driver, because I passed this test with just one minor fault. I don't think there's any roundabout that I cannot do. I can do different maneuvers now. I can go on any road now. I'm a more careful driver. I look more at my mirrors. It just made me a better and a more careful driver, So that is it. Feel free to ask me any question if you have them in the comment section. How many times did you do your driving test? Please share it to us in the comment section. Thank you everyone for watching today's video. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye bye.